Today I will be building this 4S2P 18650 pack using this spot welder. I'm really anxious to see how well this holds up. I have around 64 welds to perform, so let's get to it. Before we start welding, we need to determine where to put the BMS. I've chosen this spot because the battery minus is very close to the pack minus terminal and the battery plus is very close to the pack plus terminal. After that, we need to start laying out our nickel strips, and I've chosen to go with more of a snake here, so we have parallel cells beside each other, and then they're all series together. So we'll start laying out our nickel strips. Try to get these as center as I can. So next we will series these two cells together. Now be sure that when you're doing this, double check your orientation of your cells, because if you weld these short circuit, you will not have a good day. Okay, so now that we have these four connections made, we'll flip it over, keeping in mind the orientation of the pack. This will be pack negative, pack positive. So then we need to series these two and these two together. So I'll first lay down the parallel. And now I'll add my series connections. And now I'm adding the final parallel strips. So now we have all of these. We can double check ourselves. We should get 4S pack voltage here. So 14.38, 7.2, 7.18. Okay. So now that we know this works, I'm going to go through and make sure all of these welds are solid, and then we will solder on the BMS. Alright, now we're going to add the BMS. Like I said before, I have already decided the orientation before I welded, which is important. And I went ahead and cut small tracks in the plastic here, because this battery will be sitting oriented this way, and I don't want any stress on these solder connections here. So the first thing I'm going to do is tape this on here, just to hold it in place. Then I will begin routing the leads. Okay, we'll go ahead and add the other one. Okay, now that we have the two wires connected here, we have one more to do. Now this one I did not cut a track for because the battery will be oriented this way, so it doesn't matter. Tin this up. Okay, so now we will add the battery plus and battery minus. Now these will need to be thicker wires because they will carry most of the current. However, I will not be using this for any more than 10 amps, so I'm going to be using 18 gauge wire for these. But I will first need to tin these. You have to be careful when you're soldering directly to the battery. So now I'm going to add my pack power wires. Now I'm using 18 gauge wires on the XT60, but I like using one plug for everything. Plus 10 amps, it'd be alright. So now I'm going to solder these, make sure these pads have plenty of solder on them. Okay, now we could technically use this now, but I will be adding a 4S balance plug because I'll be charging this with a balance charger. So now we will add those connections as well. So I will start by soldering the two wires that are the furthest away from where I want the balance connector to be, which is next to the power wires. Okay, that's exactly what I didn't want to happen. Okay, now that we have the two hardest ones, we can trim the rest to fit. Now that I have the balance lead soldered on, this pack is pretty much ready to go, besides a few things to strengthen it up. I will get this on the charger soon and start testing it, so hopefully these welds and solder joints are solid. I did, however, have to use thinner nickel strips. I just could not get solid welds using the 0.15mm nickel strips. So stay tuned for the next few videos where I will be getting a bigger LiPo for this to hopefully weld the 0.15mm strips, and also assembling a 450 watt-hour 18650 pack, and I'll be building a 75 watt solar panel to charge it. So make sure you leave a comment below if you like this video, and I will see you in the next one.